Hi, everybody. Dr. Angela here. I'm really excited to be sharing with you a new mentorship program that I am a part of. This series is amazing, and I think you really want to listen in about this one. Did you know that an unprecedented $68 trillion will pass between generations over the next 25 years? And that 70% of families' wealth is lost by the second generation and 90% by the third. Well, 85% of generational wealth is lost due to the breakdown of family relationships, broken trust, and a lack of communication, and a failure to prepare and engage the heirs. The truth is, a strong relational foundation built on trust and unity is key to the passing down of generational wealth. Well, join myself and top CEOs, pastors, financial executives, best-selling authors, and professional coaches for the Legacy by Design series, Relational Wealth Principles of Highly Successful Families. In this series, we'll be sharing stories, tools, and insights to teach you how to create and recreate a powerful family story, to heal and redeem broken and destroyed family relationships, to develop strength and resilience, to live out core values in the face of adversity, and of course, how to establish a strong foundation of trust and communication in your family. Are you ready to achieve significance beyond business and create legacy by design? I know that I'm really excited to share my tips and what my family has done. So join me for the Legacy by Design series, Relational Wealth Principles of Highly Successful Families. To grab your tickets, simply visit my website, drangela.chester.com.
Good morning, and thank you so much for joining me for Healing Spark with Dr. Angela. I am your host, Dr. Angela Chester. You know what I like to do on my show. I want to enlighten you. I want to inspire you. I want to empower you to become your best self. Now, Scripture reminds us that the tongue is a small thing that makes grand speeches, but a tiny spark can set a great forest on fire. And today, I want you to be fired up about our guest. Her name is Jeronica Kelly, and we are talking about her book, Learn to Love the Pain. So let me tell you just a little bit about Jeronica, and then we're going to jump right into talking to her. She is a retired veteran at the age of 28 years old. She's a native of Alabama, and she is a mom. She is a 3-time published author and currently working on her 4th. She's a certified motivational speaker and a certified medical assistant. She has a degree in pre-nursing from Georgia Military College, where she now resides in Grovetown, Georgia. Now, she had one deployment to Afghanistan under her military belt, and we are so grateful that she made it home safely. She has just recently begun a Christian clothing line for Sarah Grace by the name of Saving Grace Collection, which includes clothing, masks, hats, and more. So I cannot wait to talk to her about all that she is doing. Now, you know what I'm going to tell you. Go on. Get comfy, get cozy, get your coffee or get your tea, because we are about to get started. Good morning, Jeronica. Thank you so much for being on the show with me here today.
Good morning, Dr. Angela. How are you doing today?
I am well. Thank you for asking. Now, I dislike reading people's bios because sometimes it can be sound boring when it's being read, but it sounds so much better when it's coming from the person who can put a little more extra into it. So let me just ask you, in your own words, who are you? What makes you you?
I am first and foremost a child of God. So there stems from everything else is who I am. Without God, I would be nothing. I would be no one. And so I try to make that very edible in things that I do throughout my life and throughout my daily goals. I am, like you said, a mother of a 4-month-old, Sarah Grace. She has become my inspiration to do even more than I thought of doing way before. I am a 3-time author working on a 4th book. I am a retired Army veteran. I medically retired at the age of 24. So I'm going on my 4th year now, being out of the military, and it has been an adjustment trying to adapt to civilian life. But things have been great. It's not always great, but, if you keep God at the forefront of your life, then things will always be good. So that, in a nutshell, is basically who I am.
Absolutely. I love it. I love it. And, again, thank you so much for your service. I thank God that you were able to make it back homely as safe and as sound as you were able to. So thank you again for your service. I think many times people forget that there are not only men standing in the gap, but there are women as well that are holding our flag proudly and keeping us safe, even though they are abroad. So thank you so much for that. Now, being a mom, I know that you love it. As a mother myself, it totally and completely changes your world. You are right. And it's like, oh, my goodness, who knew you could love this much more? Especially when you're holding them and they're little. It's like, oh, my goodness, my heart is going to explode. So, yes, congratulations on that milestone. And her name is beautiful, Sarah Grace. I think that is lovely. And one of those names where you can call her by her entire name. You can call her Sarah Grace, and it doesn't sound like you're angry or upset. Kind of like
exactly.
a Mary Ann. It's like it just goes beautifully together. Great job, Mom. Great job. Now, you have a clothing line that you are behind. What is it like being an entrepreneur? Be it that you're a retired veteran, you're a new mom, and now you're an entrepreneur. How do you like that role?
I think I just took on some another level of stress. I'm learning. I am learning now that you have to be being an entrepreneur. You have to stand firm in what you believe and what you want to put out there. And my products for Sarah Grace's clothing line, I want them to be spiritual, but also, I want everyone to be able to purchase these. I remember a time in my life where I would go into the store and I couldn't purchase a T-shirt that was $8 or $10 because I just didn't have it. So I'm trying to get a clothing line out there that most of us can afford. I know that it's a good thing to be able to go into the store and buy a pair of pants for $75. That's a good thing. That, okay, God has blessed us. But for those that are less fortunate, what about us? So I just thought to create a line that would, especially now during this pandemic, that, because one of the masks and when T-shirt says we all need prayer. And that is true. We all need prayer, regardless of whether you believe or you don't believe. Going through this pandemic, you're going to need a word. You're going to need someone to pray for you.
Absolutely.
So I just think that being an entrepreneur, I'm learning that I cannot sell myself short. I have to, in order to get the product out there and to sell it, I can't belittle my prices. I can't downplay who I am and what I am just because a family member or a best friend says, hey, what about me? You got me? Yeah, I got you. But I mean, how can my business prosper if I keep giving things out? Everything's not about a give and take. So I'm as a new entrepreneur, I'm learning daily that it's a stress. So I commend every entrepreneur out there. It's very stressful.
And that's a show, let me tell you, that is a show all unto itself. Friends and family members, I'll go on and say it. If you have a friend or a family member who's an entrepreneur, stop asking for the discount. One of the best things you can do to show that friend or that family member some love is to pay full price for that item. The same way that we share other people's brands, and you know who I'm talking about, yep, that person, that other person,
Amen.
Yep, that house too. We need to share our friends' brands on social media. your girl is out there making handbags or selling books, or she has clothing, you need to share her genes. These other folks, they have a marketing team. They have people that, is going to share that on social media. We need to blow our friends up, and instead of just sharing some of these other established brands. Each and every one of us needs to do that solid. That's how you can be a great family member, be a great friend. So, I'll be the auntie that tells everybody that, hey, this is what needs to be done, because it's true. It's just flat out true. I will have a stranger many times share an event that I have far more times than a family member would.
I've learned that to be true.
Just assume. Mm-hmm. They're like, girl, you're doing fine. I didn't think you needed me to share. I need you to share it. Even if I, make $1 million this year, I still need you to share it the same way that you're sharing the other brands. So I agree with you on that. Now, being an author, is that something that you always wanted to do, or did you find that was just the next logical step for you on your life path?
I don't believe that's something I've always wanted to do. If I'm being honest, I always knew that I was a decent writer when it came to literature assignments or poems or even public speaking. But to be an author, it wasn't something that I had on my to-do list. It was one of those things that just really happened kind of therapeutically. When I came back from Afghanistan and I started going to therapy, one of my therapists said, well, let's try this process. Let's do CBT, which is cognitive behavior therapy. And we decided to, write down some of my traumas and write some of the things that happened to me and write some things that I want to do in my past. And in writing, I was able to take off some of those some of those levels of hurt and pain and all those emotions that I was carrying around that I had no idea that I was carrying. So when I was able to shed that through my writing, I just decided one day I was on staff duty, and I was there for more than a few hours. And I just started writing. And next thing I know, my first book was written. And I decided a few days later to publish it. And so it's just something that came about. It wasn't something I always wanted to do. So, no, ma'am.
Now, the book, and I definitely want to give you an opportunity to talk about as many as possible, but if you don't mind, let's focus on Learn to Love the Pain first and foremost. And with that title, did you find that title came to you first, or were you writing and the title kind of was developed out of your writings? How did that happen?
Usually the titles just come along as I am working. It could possibly come in the middle or even at the end, but it normally comes naturally. I could be writing a sentence and think, hey, that would be a great title. Now, my titles are very unusual, pretty much, some would think, but they are what came the strongest to me in that moment. I wanted something that would stick out and grab someone's attention, but I also wanted something that in one simple sentence or phrase could cause some thought to someone.
Absolutely, absolutely. Now, Learn to Love the Pain without giving it all, no spoilers or anything like that, but can you tell us, what is that book about? What does that focus on?
Okay, so Learn to Love the Pain is actually the second book in my memoir series. And basically it picks up from where the first one left off, but in a nutshell, where Love to Learn the Pain comes in is it talks about, the things that happen to you at an early age in life, not allowing those things to hinder you from all the greatness that you have to offer within you. I have many times tried to use what happened to me throughout my life as an excuse to be an awful person. Like, I thought at one point that because I had been violated so many times, that it would be nothing for me to give myself away for a small amount of money. Or I reasoned that because there were drugs available in my neighborhood, that it would be easy to get a hold of those and either sell them or to get onto them. I even feared becoming, a wife and parent, thinking that I would neglect them like I had been, or that I would treat them inappropriately because that was my normal. So these thoughts seem to haunt me forever, and sometimes they still run across my mind. And in a constant state of negative, in a constant negative state of mind, those thoughts could have become my existence. But there is a God, and He surrounded me with people that love me, and even though I didn't see it at the time. So He allowed those people to intervene on my behalf and help me stay positive. And I don't know, somehow the pain pushed me to go harder, to want to be better and do better. And I wanted to help find my voice and help others to do the same. And although pain is inevitable, through it all, somehow I learned to love the pain. And that's basically what this book is about.
I love it. Yes, yes, yes. I love that theme that you're talking about. No, really, because we have to learn ourselves as we are in every stage. As a breast cancer survivor, I talk to ladies about that. It's like, yes, we have scars, but guess what? We are still here, and our scars prove that we made it through. So don't cover them up. Don't be ashamed. It's not like I want you to walk around and show them off. But at the same time, it's like, don't be ashamed. You're still here. You're still standing. So absolutely, I love it. I love it. Well, Jeronica, it is time for us to go to break. But before we do, can you remind everyone what was the title of the book that you just mentioned? Where can we get a copy, and how do we stay in contact with you?
Learn to Love the Pain. It's found on Amazon and Barnes & Noble online. You could also contact me via email, jeronica91@gmail.com. That's Jeronica, Jeronica, K91@gmail.com. Or even call me, 706-339-7105, and I could get a signed signature book to you as well.
I love it. All righty, everyone. Now you know where you can get a copy of the book. We'll be back right after this. And we are back. Thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I am your host, Dr. Angela Butchester. My guest today is Jeronica Kelly, and we're talking about her book, Learn to Love the Pain. But guess what? She has a whole series of books. So we are going to kind of pick her brain just a little bit about the other books as well. So I hope that you did not forget. That's right. Stay comfy, stay cozy. Go ahead, get your coffee, get your tea, because we are about to continue. Jeronica, thank you so much for spending time with me here today, and I cannot wait to talk to you about your series of books. Now, Learn to Love the Pain, you said, is book number 2. So if you will, can you kind of walk us through your series? Tell us the title of book 1, book next, and what are we going to garner from each book?
Okay, yes, ma'am, I can do that. So I do have 3 books in this series. They're all short memoirs based on my life. The first one, I Have Nothing Left to Fight. Basically, it picks up, it's kind of like that movie, Look Who's Talking, where the baby is talking and telling you, explaining to you everything that's going on. That starts out as me in that book. I'm talking to you from my mom's belly and explaining to you how it was in there and all the commotion that I had to deal with, and then to come out into the world and deal with even more drama. And so the first book basically talks from the time I was a baby until about 12th grade. And in that, and I don't want to give away too much of the book, but I've gone through, my grandmother raised my siblings and I, so neither of my parents were involved in my childhood. I'd been sexually assaulted from the age of 2 to 15. I was kicked out of the house in high school when my baby sister got pregnant. So there was some obstacles that, was hard to overcome. But I learned, I had nothing. I've learned to give it to God, and I had nothing left to fight. So that's the title of the first one. Then again, the second one is, Learn to Love the Pain. And I think you mentioned that we're going to speak on that one again later. So I'll just briefly mention that one. But this one, again, it picks up from the first one. And it basically just goes on to tell how I graduated from high school, went to college, joined the military, deployed, and the last one is right before it ends right before my grandmother gets sick, right before my deployment. So that is Learn to Love the Pain.
Mm-hmm.
My third one is I Wouldn't Dare Take It Back. This title obviously came from learning to deal with those things that I once regretted in life. I've gotten to a point now that I've learned those are the things that made me who I am today. And with changing one single thing, I wouldn't be who I am. So I wouldn't dare take any of it back. And the third book mostly talks about the things that happened to me that I endured in the military and within my military career. That's military sexual trauma, things that happened during my deployment, and things of that nature. So there you have it.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. And, thank you so much for being brave enough, for being open enough and honest enough to share your experiences, because someone needs to know that it didn't just happen to them, that you were able to make it through, that you were able to go on and live a productive life, and they can too. I don't think that people understand how important it is that when we share about the stuff that happens, that gives people a sense of hope, and it helps them continue to go on. Folks like the good stuff, don't get me wrong. They like the rah stuff. But sometimes you need to know that someone has also made it from one side to the other side successfully and didn't fall in. So I love it. Thank you so much for being brave about that.
Yes, ma'am. Thank you.
Now, did you, when you were writing, did you think about, I want to share this experience because this is therapy for me. I want to write this book because someone else needs to hear the story. Did you have a particular motivation behind writing, I'm going to say, the very first book?
The first book? Yes, ma'am. I would have to say that one for me, that was the most tough one. And with that came the notion that I would be totally judged about what I was going to share, about the people in my neighborhood, the people I grew up with, and what the world would think about me, or even what those people would think about me when I returned back home. And at first, it was so challenging because, yes, it was therapeutic to write, but the thought of letting others read it and for them to know my truth, I was nervous. Some of my family members, I don't even know if they even read the book, but I got comments from them to say, well, why would you talk about your grandma in that way? Well, obviously you didn't read the book, because it's not talking about her. It's talking about the things that happened to me while I was in her care. So there, the first time that I went back home after publishing the book, there were so many stares from everyone in my community. There were some people that congratulated me on being able to help, because they understood that, I was Me Too before Me Too was a movement in my mind. And so I always wanted to be the one to be able to encourage others, for them to have a voice when there wasn't one, because I didn't grow up in a house where I could just easily go to my grandmother and say, this happened to me. We didn't have that type of relationship. So for me to share the book, and you'd see movies on TV and you say, hey, that happened to me. But do you know someone in real life that's not a celebrity, that's just playing a part?
Right.
So that's what I wanted to drive home. Yes. That's what I wanted to drive home. Like, hey, I really know this person. I grew up with this person. I could have very well been a statistic. Instead, I'm not. I'm beating the odds daily. Yeah. And I just want other people to see that it is possible. It is possible. I've accomplished so many things in just such a short amount of time, and that's not to brag. No, because I give all the credit to God. If it wasn't meant to be for me, I wouldn't have it. We have to go through a phase in life. We have to understand that if something is for us, God will bless us. If it's not for us, it'll miss us every time. It'll miss us every time. So you know, I can't be jealous of what the next person has because that's not for me in this moment. I could pray for something and pray for it for 3 months in a row, and then finally say, okay, God, I guess it wasn't meant to be. I guess you didn't hear my prayers. And, you know, God's going to get tired of me, and he's going to say, you know what? I try to protect this girl, but she wants to be anxious and not with her. So I'm just going to give it to her, and I'm going to let her feel all the pain that I was trying to protect her from. And once I feel that pain, I'm, God, you know what? You were trying to protect me. You were trying to keep me from that thing I really wanted that bad. So it's just, it's in a nutshell, you know, I always wanted to be a role model for others. And so I think that with the way that I carry myself, the way that I speak, the person that I am, I think that's very viable and when you see who I am in my daily life. So I don't know. Growing up, I just wanted someone to look at that looked like me.
Absolutely. Well, congratulations on being a role model, because you have accomplished that. And, you know, not everyone wants to be a role model. Like, I've literally heard celebrities say, I am not a role model. I don't want this. I don't want this job. Don't put this on me. But there are so many people that are ready to step up, that are willing to walk that path because they want to be what they themselves needed. Or, like you said, you want to be that person so someone else can see someone who looks just like them. You know, it is amazing what representation means to the various groups of people, to the various cultures that are in our world, and it is so important that everyone's voice is heard because everyone's voice is important. Thank you for having, again, that courage to step up. And you're right, Me Too is a movement. It was time, I think, our society, our culture was ready to stop some of those old behaviors because they weren't good behaviors, and we're ready to step into some new behaviors. So thank you so much for that. Now, when you were deciding that, yes, I'm going to share, did you ever consider writing under a pen name? Did you ever think, yeah, maybe I need to not put my name out there? Or how did you think of that?
That's a very good question. To answer the question, I did, and I have. Actually, as a matter of fact, my second Learn to Love the Pain, it is written under a pseudonym as J-Love. And to explain, I chose to use a different publishing company at the time, and their rules were a bit different than the first company that I went through. For me not to have to change my entire manuscript, I simply used the nickname Only a Few Know Me by and changed character names since there were none in the first one. But it wasn't to hide because with the first one, you know, I prayed about it. I was nervous. I was scared. And literally an entire year later, I decided to publish it. But with the second one, I wasn't nervous. But then I thought, well, why am I using a pseudonym? But again, it was the company's rules. Either use a pseudonym or change your manuscript. And I wasn't going to do that. So there you have it.
Right. Yeah. Well, decision made, right? I hear you on that. Now, even though you have works that are already published, do you have any books that are in the works that are you're going through the various stages? Have you stopped writing, or do you continue to write? Is there a book next?
There is a fourth book that I'm working on now. It is unpublished. And I'll say it's about half finished. I've been working on it for a little over a year now, and it focuses on the lives of 3 soldiers that I deployed with overseas that lost the war back at home. Now, PTSD and suicide are just 2 of, you know, the biggest issues that we have to deal with within the military and veteran community. And for some, once they're either returned back home or have gotten out of the service, they don't receive any help from the VA or any other resources, and they seriously struggle to cope with day-to-day life. So this book sheds light on those issues and those lives lost. And I even include my personal tale of how my attempts at suicide were unsuccessful, but that last one back in 2017. Well, I woke up in ICU, and I was angry because it didn't have, because I wasn't successful, that they brought me back. And that very same year, two of the soldiers that I speak about, they took their lives. So now here I am to tell their stories and the best that I can with the help of their closest family members. So this book is, to me, it is, even though my other 3 books are personal and it's my life, this book is going to be, I don't know, it has been more difficult for me to work on, basically because, well, you have to get the permission of those soldiers' family members, and you have to get one of them to at least be okay with sharing their story and to get information about who they were before they deployed or before they joined the military. And then, I did a little back history on PTSD and suicide and things of that nature. So it's a little touchy for me, and I know it's going to be touchy for those family members, and I know they're probably anxious to get their hands on it. But I really believe that this is going to shed light on things in the military that are overlooked, or not even overlooked, but in short, one of the soldiers, he knew he needed help, and he tried to get into the VA system, but because he wasn't suicidal that day, they turned him away. Or because he wasn't showing any signs, then it wasn't important for them to get him any help. And then there he was a few weeks later, he lost his life. So this one's it's really coming from the heart. So
Absolutely.
I think, and I also, of course, I had a high-risk pregnancy, so I did stop writing during that, but I plan on picking it up within the next month or 2, so I should have it published before the end of the year.
And with all good things, sometimes we have to be patient with ourselves. We have to be patient with the process. And when it's ready, it'll be ready and it'll be perfect because it'll be in God's timing. So we will definitely, and I think with that one, you're right. You're talking about a very serious topic, something that really needs your care and attention, and it will come across beautifully. I think that when someone cares about what they're writing, especially when it's about someone they know, it's written differently, because it's coming from a perspective of love. Even if it's something that's heavy, even if it's a serious topic, it's still going to shine a light on not just what happened, but the why, the reasons, and illuminate the entirety of it. Yes, ma'am, PTSD is a serious, serious topic, and we do need to be aware that our veterans still need our love, our tenderness, our understanding, especially when they first get home. You are so right about that. Well, it is time for us to go to break, Jeronica, but before we do, can you remind everyone what is a title of one of your books? Where can we get a copy, and how do we stay in contact with you?
I've Nothing Left to Fight is found on Amazon or Barnes & Noble online. You can also email me at jeronicak91@gmail.com. Again, that's Jeronica, Jeronica, K91@gmail.com. Or even send me a text message or call me at 706-339-7105, and I can get a signed copy out to you in the mail.
I love it. All righty, listeners, now you know where you can get a copy of the book. We'll be back. We are back. Thank you so much for joining me for Daily Spark with Dr. Angela. I'm your host, Dr. Angela Butchester. My guest today is Jeronica Kelly, and we are talking about her series of books. She has written some memoirs, and I think that you are going to definitely learn something today. We're talking about various topics that have various degrees of personal sharing, but there's also so much public information that she shares in these books. So if you know someone who's going through a little bit of something and they need a book of encouragement, perhaps one of Jeronica's books is a book for you, because you know what I like to do. Say it with me. I want to enlighten, inspire, and empower you. Well, Jeronica, my next question for you is, so many times when we're writing, our books are our babies. You know, it's a labor of love here. Do you, and I hate to ask it, do you have a favorite? Did you have one that when you were done writing that you had a sense of accomplishment and that, yes, I completed that one? Did that hold true for you, or were they equally as important to you once completed?
That's a tough question. I don't think that I could say I have a favorite one, but I will say it was the first one that pretty much changed my life with writing it, because there was just so much that I held in that I didn't even realize that I was still carrying around with me. And sometimes we do that in life. We carry things around that we don't even, from 10, 15 years ago, we should have let that go. And we're holding on to it, you know. So once I started going to therapy, and that's another thing, in the Black community, you know, we don't believe in therapy. It's not talked about. It's not, you know, it's not encouraged. It's joked about even at some point. But once I started going to therapy, and I don't know how many therapists I went through before finally finding one that actually suited me and encouraged me to write. But had it not been for that therapist and encouraged me to write things out and really take the time to figure out what triggered me and, you know, where those things stemmed from, I don't think there would be a series of, in fact, I know there wouldn't be a series of books. But with my second one, I think that was the hardest for me, because with writing that one, I triggered some things that I didn't even remember. So, you know, in my trying to be transparent, I wanted everything to be told, but at the same time, there were some things I said, wait a minute, because you got to be careful on what you say and how you say. And, you know, so with the things that I remembered, I had to sit that one down for a while. I had to sit down and come back to it later, because, you know, some of those things, it's like, okay, now I need to really deal with this in real life. That's not something you can just put on paper and let it go. No, you got to deal with it, talk about it. I went to my therapist and said, hey, I'm working on the second book, and this is what I need. So, each of them did something different for me. But again, I have no favorite. I think, you know, it's like a child. Each of them are your babies, and they all bring something different to the table.
Absolutely, absolutely. And I love how each one has allowed you to work through and process what happened in real time. You know, I'm one of those therapists that always encourage journaling. My listeners are going, yep, she says it all the time. You know, write it down, get it out. You know, freestyle writing. It doesn't matter about the punctuation. It doesn't matter about the capitalization. Just get the thought out of your head and into that journal. And not necessarily for me to read. It's not to be given to me to share, but just to free that space. To allow yourself to get it out, you know, and it's nothing like just having that new sense of freedom, like, there, I shared it, it's out, now what? Let's move on to the next bit of healing that you have in store. So I am so glad that your therapist told you to do that, and I'm so glad that you actually followed through, because you're helping other people heal as well, even though you were working on you initially. You're now helping other people heal, and that's amazing. Now, when so many times authors will share that writing for them is it's something that kind of gets them fired up. You know, it exhilarates them, it charges them up, it's an experience, and they love writing. But you're talking about some real things that happened to you. while you were writing, and you kind of touched on it a little bit, that sometimes you were triggered with certain things that you talked about, but did you find that there was also that sense of freedom? Did you find that you felt empowered as you were writing?
Oh, most definitely. Like to write something down and then go back and read it, and then you have to reread it again because you can't believe that you wrote it down. And then to say,
Yeah.
you know, that cliche that what doesn't kill you only makes you stronger, to know that that's true, and it's not a cliche, you know, that makes me feel like Superwoman, because I've been through some things that I know for a fact a lot of people couldn't have endured, or, you know, I've come out on the positive end where I know for a fact there are some people that weren't strong enough to have handled it, and they went the opposite way. So most definitely when I'm writing, and then to go back over it, I'm like, what? That really happened to me? I really overcame that? You know, that it's like a sense of, it's like, God, you truly created me to be this awesome being, and I thank you for who I am, and I thank you for, you know, all the people that you're going to bring into my life for me to inspire, because I just know that, I mean, no one has to tell me. I know for a fact that my books, any one of them, if not all, has touched someone's life, has encouraged them, has help them put the bottle of pills down when they wanted to take themselves out. I know for a fact, you know, and so because it's done that for me. I mean, yeah, they're my books. Sometimes I want to go back and read it, but then sometimes it's like, I'm not ready yet, or I'm not right. I'm not there at
Let
that moment.
Let that stay over there, right? Let that stay over there.
Yes, and so you have to.
You have closure on that, so no need to go and
exactly
rehash that.
Exactly. So it's like, you know, when you compartmentalize. That's how I go throughout my days now. I compartmentalize. If someone calls me with some bad news, I deal with it for about 10, 15 minutes. I put it in the cabinet. I lock that drawer. It's done. You know, I might take it to my prayer closet, deal with it there, but it's gone. So
right.
To have that sense of, oh, man, I really did that. That's like probably the best feeling, besides my daughter, probably the best feeling in the world.
Of course. I love it. Now, we are almost out of time, but I have two more questions for you. And the first one being just bits of advice for both of the questions. So question number one is, for that person who is going through some real life stuff right now, no matter what their stuff is, theirs could be the same as yours or different than yours, but they feel the weight of the world on them right now. Do you have any words of encouragement for that person?
Okay. I would say to that person, you know, not everyone is born with a silver spoon in their mouth. But there are too many people in the world that uses what happens to them as an excuse to be and do less. And, you know, regardless of what has happened to you, you can become and do whatever it is that you put your mind to. So, you know, whether you are seeking that job that you want and you didn't get it, don't give up. Keep applying. Whether you went into a position that you're not qualified for, but you got the job anyway, that's okay. God said you were qualified, so he put you there. You didn't put you there. Not your marriage alone, but God put you there. See, sometimes it's not about just in that moment. It's about the bigger picture. And we have to remember that, everything's not good right now, but it's going to get better. Because the promise is that, you know, I tell myself sometimes, like, it's storming outside. Literally, it's ugly out there. But after that storm passes, there's going to be a rainbow. And that's how I try to remember things in life, that, okay, I'm just going through a storm right now, but there's going to be that beautiful rainbow afterwards. So that's what I would tell that person that's going through it right now, that you have to remember the storms might get a little tough to endure, but don't give up.
Absolutely. I love it. I remember when I read the quote that says, in order to enjoy the flowers, the rain must come. So absolutely. That is a word right there. I love it. Last question for you, and this is about writing. So, again, that person who is thinking about stepping out, perhaps they want to share a personal story the way that you did, or they simply just want to write a book of fiction or a book of poetry, whatever it is, but they're thinking about becoming an author. Do you have any words of wisdom, any tips for them about becoming an author?
Yes. For the person aspiring to be an author, just a little bit from what I've learned, like there are some difficult parts of writing for anyone in general. Sometimes you might you get writer's block. I'd have to say, like, sometimes the difficult part about writing is knowing how much or how little to share. If you want to tell a story, you have to, whether to be too explicit or to be not explicit or vulgar. And then you have to know what to leave out, whether you're going to be triggered by it or not. More so than anything, I would say, if you want to write, stick to it. Like, you write and then take a break. It doesn't have to be finished within a day or a week or even a month. Just let it flow and let it be yours. Own up to that. If you allow others to read your work during the process, I would be mindful of the fact that they're going to be critical. They're going to have inputs and want to critique you a little bit, but remember that it's your piece of work. So everyone has a story to share, and a lot of them want it to be told. And there have been a lot of people that, since I published my books, have asked me, hey, can you help me in the process, or how I want to share my story and this and that. That's okay. I'm here to help everyone. I'm not one of those people, just because I did it, I'm not going to help you get there. No, there's plenty out there for all of us. So I just want that inspiring author. I just want you to know, find the time to do that, especially now during this pandemic. If you're at home, find that time to write. And, just because simply we only have one life, and if we do it correctly, that's all we need. But I say make the best of it and tell your story, or tell whatever story you want to be told, and do it full-heartedly.
Absolutely. Beautiful words of encouragement. I tell you, I love it. I love it. Jeronica Kelly, thank you so much for spending time with me here on Daily Spark. You have inspired, you have encouraged, you have enlightened and empowered so many today. Thank you so much for sharing your story.
Thank you.
And listeners, thank you as well for spending time with us today. As always, may the Lord continue to shine His face upon you. May you receive His grace and His mercy in all that you do. Until next time, everyone, remember that you are blessed in the Lord. Have a great day, everyone. Bye-bye.